Hey, what's up guys? So today we're going to be finally doing the Wolcen Lords of Mayhem review. I feel like it's finally time to go ahead and make this video. I know it's been a long time, but I wanted to kind of give them an opportunity to fix the game, even though I've been playing this game for 5+ years because I had access to this game a long time ago, back when I backed it on Kickstarter. I would still say, right now, this game is still in early access. It's still a game that would be in beta. It's a really good beta, and it really feels like it's so close to being complete. But to really sit in the state that it is currently right now, I think it just was kind of a mistake. If you just called it like, we are in the final stages of our beta, come play our game early access, it would have been much better received. But nonetheless, this is going to be the review of the game. So first off, as far as the game goes, I'll show you guys content that is in the end game, but it will not have any spoilers. If you guys do want to watch the full campaign, I'll leave a link down below in the pinned comment. I did the full campaign, and I honestly really enjoyed this action RPG's campaign. It has very good visuals, it's got good voice acting, and there's a few bugs here and there, but for the most part, it's 100% playable with a campaign. The endgame content for this game, I feel like, is a little bit dry. I feel like I personally got burnt out a lot, and looking at the numbers via Steam charts, it seems like a lot of other people are kind of getting burnt out of this game relatively quick, because for me, I like to spend hundreds and thousands of hours into an action RPG, not like 10-15. I think this game, for 10-15 hours, you could have a lot of great times, but to spend hundreds of hours, I personally don't know for myself if I would consider it like a great time, because I feel like there's a lot of things that are still in the earlier stages of this game. So since I played the game previously, I want to mention some of the things that were promised on Kickstarter that just never came to be. But I first off want to show you guys what the end game content will be looking like. While the campaign is only like about 10-ish hours long, depends how fast you're doing things. This is primarily what you're going to be doing in the game, and I mean, this is what you do for the entirety of it. The random map generation in this game doesn't really exist. There are random maps, but there's basically a few tile sets that you have, and then that's it. It's not like completely randomized. So what you do at the very end of the game is you do something similar to Diablo, and this is not my highest level character, but it's just the one I want to show off because I haven't shown off this build before. I've shown off Bleeding Edge and I showed off my Gun Mage, but I really want to show off this build over here, which is basically just a whirlwind. I just want to divide up the kind of content that I'm putting out here for a Wolcen. Anyways, so there are difficulties, and as you increase the difficulty over here, you'll see it on Veteran, the monsters will be level 67, you'll get extra magic find, and as you kind of go up, whether you're a champion, you'll see more magic find, more enemy level, and it just keeps on going up until 187, which is currently one of the highest. Now, you can also roll map modifiers, which will cost gold. So this is more of a deeper mechanic where it's more like Path of Exile, where you're able to go ahead and make the map harder. Maybe you don't need crowd control, so you can select this, and you basically select a few modifiers. Then you can lure the Untainteds. Luring the Untainteds will drop items that will have Untainted mods, which, to give you an example, it'll be like +1 to pierce projectiles. That will be a really sought after maybe mod that you're looking for on an Untainted modifier. So basically that's what the end game really looks like, but pretty much you're doing the same thing over and over. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do it. Let's just do a really simple one just so I can commentate and explain certain gameplay mechanics, because the game is really cool. And if you guys want like the too long didn't watch version of it, really what it comes down to is, are you okay with the game in early access? Because I think this game still is really cool. People giving this game like 2 out of 10. I don't think it's a 2 out of 10. In the game state that some people played it in, where it's like deleting your characters, that's absolutely terrible. I never had a character be deleted, but at the same time, I've had lots of bugs falling through the levels, getting completely stuck. In fact, in my campaign, I literally found an invisible wall. I just couldn't progress. I had to literally exit the game. And you know, when I stream the game, there are lots of times where I'll just get stuck. I can't move. I fall through the level. Just lots of bugs. The game just is not ready. This is basically a whirlwind build where I can whirlwind, but I can also use like a chain lightning skill over here. So how the game works, and I think this is a really cool mechanic. So you have rage as well as willpower, and how it works is when you spend rage, you will gain willpower, and when you spend willpower, you will gain rage. I wish they just called it mana to make it easier. At one point it was called Umbra, but that's what they're calling it now, willpower and rage. So when I spend my rage, it will be converted into willpower. So you kind of have this dual system, although there are lots of builds that will just kind of pick one. And when I go ahead and use my willpower, it will be converted into rage. Now, I have a unique called the Zephyron, the Herald of change, and what that allows me to do is cast lightning spells. Normally you cannot cast lightning spells with this weapon. You would have to have what's called a catalyst or a staff. If you look at the skills in this game, and I'll get into this in a moment because it's actually really cool. So this skill over here, it says skill tags spell, and it says spell only usable with staves or catalysts. There are other items in the game which will allow you to cast other things that might be unique. It might be like a modifier on an item. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do with the skill modifier. So if you've played Diablo, you guys know about skill runes, where you have your skill, which is like the base skill, and then you can go ahead and modify it. Some of them, in Diablo, a lot of it is just changing the element, whether it's like poison, fire, cold. But this game is actually really cool, and I like how they did this. So you have these different modifiers. Let's take the little chain lightning that I have called Thunderstrike. You can change it into giving you extra chance to inflict ailments on enemies. What an ailment is kind of a damage over time. And then you can also make it so you have extra ailment damage. You have willpower cost, so that's basically mana cost reduction if you want to think of it like that. We have more damage. We have a number of bounces on the chain lightning. We also have it so you can increase critical strike chance against shocked enemies. But you get the idea. Some of these will cost more points than others. And as you level up the skill, you're going to go ahead and have more different modifiers. This is a really cool gameplay mechanic, and this is where I feel like it takes it from an average action RPG to a next-gen one. And I think this is a really cool idea. Another thing that I thought was really cool, like this is 100% cool though. I like this idea. I feel like there should be a lot more skills in the game, because pretty much what it comes down to is you're locked to, let's say, I use melee weapons. This is kind of my amount of skills that I have to choose from. And the skills look really cool. I mean, this one straight up looks like it's from God of War. You have like the Blades of Chaos. Awesome looking. I love it. And like I said, a lot of the skills, they look cool. And I think that this is a really good mechanic here. No complaints here. You can actually duplicate your skills, and you can actually unlock an extra skill slot, which we have already done. There's a lot of cool mechanics with the skills, and I think this is done very well. Next up is the passive tree, and I'm going to show you guys the older passive tree. Like I said, I've been playing this game for years, and the older version of this was actually better. It took a little bit more, I would say, not necessarily skill, but it required you to think a little bit more with your path. And the reason why is there was supposed to be a fourth skill wheel over here. So how it works is you have these circles that you can rotate. It has to be connected to an inner part of the circle, otherwise none of these nodes will work. So you have to have it in the perfect location. And depending on what you want for your build, you might want to rotate it a certain way. Really cool idea. I love the mechanic here. However, with only a few skill points, you can go ahead and path around, because they have this on the second ring right here. You can basically just put in like, you know, one, you'll get this one anyways, let's say. You'll put like 1, 2, 3, and then you have the ability to go ahead and go somewhere completely different. The older skill tree, which I'm going to show you guys, was better because it didn't allow you to do that. It kind of made it so you couldn't actually pick out everything. Now, with the amount of skill points that you're given, the tree is simply just not large enough to make it so these decisions are actually difficult. You can get pretty much majority of the things that you want, because you're not going to be scaling a lot of different things all at once, if that makes sense. Like, you're not going to be looking for like spell damage and like material damage, which would be considered like kind of melee in a sense. But what I'm saying is that the skill tree, or the passive tree, was a lot better the way it was before, and I'll kind of get into that. The game was actually more complex before. Maybe they decided to make it simpler, but I think what people really want is more depth to action RPGs. I don't think that people would have been upset if the skill tree really made it so you can only go one path. You'd have to, like, you know, actually rotate the wheel, because again, the rotation is completely unnecessary, because you can literally path and get 3 or 4 points and then go somewhere completely different. But I like the system of the idea on the passive tree. It's just that they really needed that fourth ring to make it so things were a little bit more, I guess, permanent in your decision. Speaking of that, you can actually respec at any time. But anyways, as far as the content goes, what you're going to be doing for hundreds or thousands of hours in the game, if you want to experience it, you basically just fill up this bar. There'll be a boss, and you kill him, and that's it. And you rinse and repeat over and over again, and that's where it gets really stale for me personally. Yeah, you get some better gear, but at the end of the day, as far as the gearing goes in this game, you're really looking at legendaries being the end game gear, and they're just basically stat sticks. There are really cool uniques, and at one point in the game it's considered a bug, but you can actually convert like a unique to make it like legendary at the same time to give it that special ability. But they said that was a bug. I thought it was a really cool idea because you'd basically be able to have some of the legendary or unique items with legendary stats, because the legendary stats usually are better than everything in the game, but the uniques have some type of special modifier, making it so, again, I can cast lightning skills with this sword, which normally you can't do. Some skills will require like shield, or some will require a bow or a dagger. There's a lot of really cool skills in this game, but again, you can't just equip whatever you want. But here's another really cool unique. It makes it so you gain rage on blocking an attack, and it also makes it so you have 5% chance added to block, and allows any weapon to block. So that's another cool mechanic. But as far as the stat points go, the older stat system, I know I'm going to sound pessimistic about this, but the older version of Wolcen was so much better. So how it works with stat points in this game, when you level up, you'll have some stat points. It's actually much better to literally slam all your points into one. And the reason why I say that is because it scales with bonus damage from your what's considered main stat, which is whatever you have the most points in. It scales and gives you more bonus % damage from that. So it's much better just to slam everything to one. In fact, a lot of builds were just slamming everything in toughness, then getting your gear to get one specific stat. And then that way you would still maintain a lot of bonus damage. It was better the way they had it before, and I'll kind of go over that in a moment. But I kind of want to go over what's available right now. As far as our gear goes, you get like bonus damage to attacks, and that can start scaling. And this video isn't really going to go over in depth as far as gearing goes, but there is the ability to kind of customize items. There's items that will actually be able to remove magic effect and adds another onto an item. So you can kind of craft a little bit. It's not as deep as Path of Exile, but the socket system in this game I think is really cool as well, which is where your items will have sockets. You can actually go to town and re-roll the different types of sockets. There's still going to be, let's say, defensive. Whatever piece of the gear it is, it will roll like defensive or offensive, let's say, for like this mace over here. So you'll see that it says offensive 1 over here. So if I go to any gem, you'll see it will add sacred damage to attacks. This one's it'll add fire, lots of different colors of elements, and whatever it has, that's what it will correspond. So you can re-roll to have more sockets, and you can also re-roll to have different sockets as an offensive 1, 2, or 3. But it can't, as far as I'm aware of, you can't roll like ones that would be offensive and defensive on a certain item unless there's a very specific item that allows you to go ahead and do that. But anyways, let me go actually back into town, and I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things. But this is one other thing that's kind of I would say it's a con in this game. So as far as items go, when you're picking up items, when you like defeat like a boss or whatever, you'll just see the items drop like this. And in order to find out if they're good or not, you actually have to pick them up. And I know it sounds really dumb, but it is very tedious to go ahead and look at all the items without like an item filter to only show what you actually want, especially because they drop like crazy. And later, eventually, you'll convert these to legendary items, as in you'll just convert them. There's a mechanic where it will let you do that. So I don't know if it's a personal complaint, but I've heard a lot of people also complain about this in the community, which is just like there's just too much items that you have to pick up and look at. And I know it sounds really dumb, but it is just, it's 2020. I think item filters should be available for anyone that's played an action RPG. It's just so much better for quality of life. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and return to the main menu, and I'm going to reset in town. But basically, yeah, like I said, you go all the way through and you fill up the bar, and then there's a boss and you kill it. It's basically a greater rift from Diablo, although the Rift Guardian doesn't spawn where you are. It spawns like in very specific locations. Another pro to this game, though, it does have offline mode, which is absolutely amazing. Every other action RPG that's out right now, for the most part, that's popular, does not support offline play. And I really do like offline play because the game legitimately did not work for several weeks after it came out. There were so many bugs. And honestly, that's the biggest problem with this game that's holding it back from being like an 8 or 9 out of a 10. It really comes down to the amount of bugs that simply exist at a game releasing at full launch versus saying that we're in early access, we're kind of testing some things out. And also, playing online just feels a little bit clunky. It feels a little bit laggy. Things just aren't as responsive, but that's normal, right? I just feel like I just enjoyed the offline experience a lot more, to be honest. Some people that were playing online, like I mentioned, things would just be deleted out of their inventory. Like, that's crazy. That's absolutely horrible. And I can totally understand why someone would be like, I'm instantly refunding this game, simply due to, again, that's not okay in a game. to just remove your items. But let me go ahead and go over some of the things that I really do like about this game. So, one, the game looks really good. There's no question about this. This is just, I don't feel like this is subjective. I think that this, objectively, this game absolutely looks amazing. The MTX, well, I guess the Cosmetic Inventory, they plan to add MTX later down the line, but not for a while here. They really are just working on fixing the game here. Let me go and actually equip this mace so my character doesn't look like they're standing in a stance. So, this is the Cosmetic Inventory here. You can see on this armor that I have, we can go ahead and change into all of the different armors that we've picked up, and I think that that's really cool. Another thing that is really cool is the ability over here, let me go ahead and actually select one of these gloves, to show you the depth of the customization as far as the dyes go. You can actually select different sections of the armor here and dye, okay, this is like on the inside over here, like the cloth, but you can dye like everything with this. You have so many options. Each piece of armor has multiple areas which you can completely change. This is absolutely amazing, and it only costs gold in game to do this. And don't worry about gold, it's really not that big of a deal. Well, this amount of gold is absolutely nothing. But yeah, the customization in this game looks absolutely great, and I love the idea of being able to individually pick out what you want to go ahead and do for the colors here. But with no item filter, as well as the no left mouse button to move, again, I just feel like if you are a fan of an action RPG, you would definitely want to have that in your game. And again, the biggest thing that's holding this game back is honestly the bugs, but also I think a lot of people just kind of got burnt out with the game, as well as also looking at what people are saying. A lot of people are really upset with what they had promised as far as their Kickstarter campaign. And I want to show you some of the gameplay mechanics that were in the previous version of the game that simply just weren't added into the final product. Maybe they're still working on it. But as far as in town goes, this is the skill vendor. You can pretty much get every skill in the game very, very easy once you reach the end game content. And there's another thing I wanted to mention here. So after you finish the game, you'll start leveling up your town. And what you can do with that is basically you'll get different things. There's Uber bosses. Another thing I do want to mention, Uber bosses do finally drop gear. For the first few days, or I think it was like a week, the Uber bosses, I think maybe they didn't expect people to get to them, but they were super incomplete. Some of these things that you would do, like you would increase the item quality, if you put your item in here and started it, your game would just break. You would just break the game because it was legitimately not ready. Speaking of things not ready, we're going into more cons here. The game has a lot of passives, as well as on your actual skill right here when you're selecting, they don't even work. They legitimately 100% don't even do anything, which is super disappointing because there's a lot of really cool looking skills. I'm going to show you guys one of my favorites over here. Let me go ahead and actually just spend some rage so I can generate some willpower. But this skill, Infinity Blades, looks so cool. Like I said, there's so many cool looking skills like the God of War blades over here, and you can see the Infinity Blades. Like, this looks so cool for an action RPG. I love how they've made some of these skills look, and there's tons of skills. In fact, maybe I'll make a video going over all of the skills. I thought that would be interesting, but like I said, this video is a little bit late as far as like in the game's like earlier cycles here. I'm sure most people that were deciding on whether to pick up the game or not maybe are just like, okay, at this point I'm gonna just wait for the new Path of Exile League. I got you. But I do want to show off a lot of the other mechanics that were promised, as well as just never again made it into the final version of the game. So let me go ahead and show you guys their Kickstarter page. You can still view this. So the game was originally called Umbra, but then they changed it to Wolcen. Anyways, this is what they showed off. So basically it was like they had all these goals, and if they reached the amount of money, they would be able to do whatever said thing, right? So as far as leaderboards, that still doesn't exist. For competitive, you know, that's a drive. What's the reason to play an action RPG where it's mainly PvE content? As far as multiplayer goes, it works a lot better now. When I first played it, what happened is if you would go into multiplayer, you'd have to exit the game, be in the lobby, in order to have people join your game. It was just a terrible system. Now people can join while the game is started, but nonetheless, there's no leaderboard right now. As far as the green boots, like I was a backer on Kickstarter. I believe the game right now still sells for $40. However, I purchased it for like 10 or 15 bucks a long time again on Kickstarter. I still don't have my rewards, but I don't really care about getting green boots. It's really not that big of a deal. But there are things that I thought was kind of cool, like this hero defense mode. Where is that? I don't know. We reached the goal here. the element weapons, the house sharing, this feature has been removed. The ability to create your own dungeons has been removed. There's a lot of things that were removed. And in fact, I still have gameplay of it, and I'll link it down below if any of you guys want to see it. But there is a system right here called the arena. And what you were able to do with this little arena system here is you would pick a level. At the moment of, well, me recording this, Wolcen max level is 90, but in the earlier stages, the alpha or beta, I think this was the alpha, the max level was 20, so this was like the end game of what was available. So you'd open up this arena and there'd be waves of enemies. It was a cool feature, and you also had a lot more flasks. There's a lot of things that were just simply removed from the game as well, but this was just a really cool feature that I thought should have stayed in the game. Oh, what the heck? It skipped out on wherever I paused it. I actually paused it on a very specific moment here. But what I wanted to show off was the older system. I'm sorry my face cam was blocking it here, but the older system didn't make it so you just slammed all of your stats into one thing. It mattered a little bit more because it would almost still do the same thing, but it didn't have that flat like bonus damage to whatever because you put more points into one or another. And I think that that's something that I really think should have been changed. There was also multiple towns that were just completely removed. They had actually several different towns that were in the game that I thought were great, already fully completed, but they removed it to only have one town. I don't know why. I like getting to the next act and seeing a new town, right? In Wolcen, we have these chapters, but there was kind of another town, but like it was so much better before. There was also capes; those were also removed. And again, it's not that big of a deal. They said that would be there in MTX. The housing system completely gone. It was already implemented. Like they had it. Like this was my old house over here, but you could see you could customize your own hideout. Why was this removed? You had it complete. I don't get it. Maybe stability, maybe the DLC, I don't know. But all I know is that you had it 2 years ago. In fact, like I said, I had this game, I believe in like 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. Like that's where I had the game. I just didn't upload at the time. Also, the flask system. The flask system was way more advanced. You had 5 flasks and they would do different things. You could see, you would have permanent stats embedded into your items. The more items that we have that can have stats, the better, I feel like. The more customization. You already had this in your game. Why was it removed? I don't know. I would also like to see unique flasks and things like that. This is the old map. The old game was, again, so much better. Because it really felt like there was this large open world that you could travel to. And now it just feels like you literally just go to, you're in the one town, which is okay, but like it's just like you're just doing rifts over and over and over and over again, and that's why it got so stale. But what I did want to show off, which was the skill tree. The old skill tree was better. The reason why the old skill tree was better is on the second part of it, you see how it's not connected. And what I mentioned before is you can easily just go ahead and path out and grab multiple of like the end nodes. But you can see over here, there's multiple rings. You see 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. But anyways, nonetheless, there was supposed to be a 4th ring. I know that for sure because it was mentioned in one of their posts. We're working on it. We're going to add it. It never came out. They just, I guess, scrapped the idea. There was a lot more nodes too. And on top of that, you gained 2 skill points per level with more nodes. I just thought it was kind of interesting to have getting 2 skill points as opposed to 1 because that's what we're usually used to in action RPGs. But again, so many features were just simply removed from the game. Also looking at the Steam charts, because one thing that people like to consider, especially myself, whenever I'm looking at purchasing a game or, you know, if the game is worth it or not, I look to see how the player base is doing. And well, the player base of the game did pop up really fast with the peak at 127K. You could see it doesn't seem to hold its player base. And the thing is that's okay for an action RPG. When you release a new season, there will be new content. It looks like this pretty much for Path of Exile, Diablo. At the start of the season, you know, there's lots of players, kind of dips down. That's okay. But with this game, I feel like early on to have your players leave that early, it's kind of like, whoa, you know, a lot of people did refund the game, and that is simply due to the amount of bugs. But you can look at the player base now, and it is definitely on a huge decline. But it's still, you know, having 31K for the 24-hour peak, that's still great. And I think this game deserves a lot better than its current review, which is sitting at a 52%. This game deserves so much better. The price tag is quite steep, but I still think that if they just, even if they released it as an early access game for $40. There's so many MMORPGs that will charge $100 for like the pack. I think people would have supported the game a lot more because the game just simply has too many bugs. You fall through the map. The end game is, I mean, it is kind of subjective, but I would say it still lacks content. I did love the campaign. I thought it was great, and I'm totally fine for myself to spend $40 and have 10 hours of entertainment. That's totally cool. All the God of War games, even though they're only a few hours long, I really enjoyed them. But the thing is that with an action RPG, I don't know why personally, I just want to spend thousands or hundreds of hours, and I just didn't feel like I could get this with Wolcen. But they did also talk a little bit about what they want to do for the future. So basically, it's in another language and it's on another website that you have to pay money for. But someone over on Reddit basically gave us like the TLDR of it, and I'll give you guys a shorter version of his TLDR. So as far as the game goes, their 4-month plan is to polish the game, period. No new content, endgame, or shop. So they're not doing anything for the next few months. So my suggestion for you guys, if you guys are like, well, I'm not really interested in an early access game, then just wait. Wait for the game to go on sale for like a lot cheaper, or just wait till the game actually is a phenomenal game. Because I think that it can be a phenomenal game. It's just, with all of the bugs and what's available right now, I think that there are other alternatives like Path of Exile that are completely free, that offer that depth, that offer the amount to spend hundreds and hundreds of hours into it. But nonetheless, this is what he said. In terms of new content polish, the next 4 months will focus on polishing, fixing bugs, and implementing more comfort features like changing the left mouse button to force move. This is where it just kind of concerns me as far as any game developer that's working on an action RPG. Why would you not have this? It's like so crazy. I don't know if any of you guys played Pagan Online, but there's a huge backlash because you literally couldn't even use your mouse to move. You had to use WASD for an action RPG. Why? I don't know. It's cool if they just say, hey, if you guys want to use WASD, you can use it. But why do you not have left mouse button to move? It's crazy. Anyways, there was a first content update DLC plan, but it's pushed back until the game is smoothed out and balanced properly, which is good. But again, if your next 4-month plan is to fix your bugs, why did you release the game? Why not just release it in those next 4 months? I don't know if it was money or, they just had to release the game because of investors. I don't know. But what I'm saying is the dev team, they have a great game on their hands, but they just released it out too early as a full release. Again, should have just said early access. But anyways, there's an in-game shop in the horizon, but they said all content updates and DLCs are going to be completely free, though. What will they have for microtransactions and stuff? I don't know. I don't think that there's going to be any pay-to-win, honestly, but you never know with games. Sometimes they say that, but they run into situations where they just simply can't afford to keep up the service or whatever the case may be. So, anyways, that's my review on Wolcen Lords of Mayhem. I think it deserves so much better, and it can be so much better. Oops, let me go ahead and uncapture the right monitor here. But like I said, the game has some depth, but it just lacks the ability to spend hundreds and thousands of hours like you could with Diablo or Path of Exile. But that's just my personal thoughts on it. I'm sorry this video took longer than it needed to be in terms of like me getting this out. I wanted to make it within the first week, but I'm like, dude, there's so many bugs with this game. And again, it still exists. If you watch any streamers play this game for several hours, they'll probably end up falling through the map. They'll probably get stuck on something. They're probably going to have to reset the game, and then they complain about it, and then everyone does make a lulz in chat. But the game had so much, like, look at this, just 4,000 HP. The other modifiers, where are they? Why did you remove them? It's crazy, man. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the game. You guys can let me know yours down below. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. And if you did, drop a like on it. And if you're new here and you want to be up to date on Wolcen, I do plan to play this game a lot more in the future when the updates come. I wanted this to be my next game. I wanted this game to be the next game that I was going to spend, hundreds of hours streaming and stuff. But I just got burnt out way too fast. And I talked to some of my friends that were also playing the game because we played multiplayer online. And they're like, yeah, I don't really play that game anymore. I'm like, you get burnt out too? And he's like, yeah, okay. Because again, it's just doing the greater rifts over and over isn't enough content, I think. But that's my personal thoughts on it. And hopefully the game will be better in 6 months to a year. But that's mine. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. And as far as action RPGs go, I don't know what else is coming out relatively soon besides Path of Exile's new update and Diablo's new update, but I'm really hoping that we'll get Diablo 4 very soon. At least a beta, maybe by the end of this year. That would be awesome. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one. and I'm signing out. Peace.